Hi there, everybody, and welcome to this workshop on breaking barriers, diversifying apprenticeships for tomorrow's workforce. My name is Kylie Van Leeuwen, and I'm the founder of Elevated Coaching and Consulting Global. I've been in the workforce development sector for over 15 years now, many of those in apprenticeship services, vocational education and training, and customised employment services. I'm also a diversity, equity, inclusion and access and human rights consultant. I've worked for many years in disability employment and specialised employment programs to support people of colour and those from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. Many of the answers to addressing skills and workforce shortages globally lie in empowering, upskilling and mentoring to support candidates from diverse backgrounds on their vocational pathways and career journeys. Since launching my consulting and coaching firm over 3 years ago and operating across Australia, the US and Europe, I've gained significant global perspectives and insights into different workforce development models, including apprenticeships. I've worked with various government departments, nonprofits, and the private sector to design workforce development programs for people from underrepresented and marginalised communities. I've also seen firsthand the transformation of individuals and companies when they focus on attracting, supporting, and retaining diverse talent. This includes focusing on workplace inclusion, psychological safety and well-being, and to improve the workplace experiences of, for instance, women in trade careers. For the next hour or so, we're going to explore how to create more inclusive apprenticeship pathways to attract more diverse talent and address skills and workforce shortages in key industries. I'll share insights and best practices from the Australian and the UK apprenticeship models and some key initiatives that may be applied to the US apprenticeship model to attract and retain diverse talent. I'll also explain the critical role of workplace inclusion and psychological safety in attracting and retaining diverse talent, such as women in trades, and how adopting a strengths-based positive psychology approach positively impacts apprentice retention and workplace experiences. So apprenticeships, they're a strategic solution, in my opinion, to the global workforce shortages that we see today and the skills shortages across a multitude of different industries. Apprenticeships offer a clear, structured pathway to address the global skills gap by providing hands-on, job-relevant training. And apprenticeships combine the on-the-job training with formal education, allowing workers to gain practical skills while earning a wage. This model is especially effective for industries like trades, construction, healthcare, aged care, and disability support, where real-world experience is critical. What we'd like to do, or what I like to do with my clients, is look at how we can fill the pipeline with skilled workers. And we know that apprenticeships directly address the skills gap by preparing workers to meet the specific needs of employers. They are particularly well suited to industries experiencing high demand, such as those I mentioned earlier, like construction, aged care, and infrastructure development. So the global labour market is currently undergoing significant changes, driven by ageing populations, technological advancements, and shifting economic priorities. Many countries are grappling with a growing shortage of skilled workers, especially in critical sectors like healthcare, aged care, and disability support. These workforce gaps are expected to widen, placing enormous pressure on industries to find suitable solutions. The US is facing a significant shortage of skilled tradespeople, with a projected shortfall of 2.3 million workers in the trade sector by 2030. The demand for healthcare, aged care, and disability support services is expected to increase by 20% by 2028, leading to a growing need for qualified workers in these fields. So what's the solution to addressing chronic skills and workforce shortages? Well, one of them is diversifying and making apprenticeship pathways more inclusive, particularly for underrepresented and marginalised groups like women in trades, people of colour, and people living with disability. It's a crucial first step in addressing these workforce shortages in the long term. So some figures. I'm a data woman, so I don't mind some really good figures when we're talking about these workforce shortages. So the US skilled worker shortfall, let's talk about that for a moment. Like I said, by 2030, the US is projected to face a shortfall of 2.3 million skilled workers in trades alone. And this deficit is primarily driven by one, the aging workforce in construction, plumbing, and electrical trades, and also the declining interest in vocational careers among younger generations, with many opting for higher education or white collar jobs, instead of entering skilled trades. Technological advancements are also reshaping the workforce's needs, requiring workers to be more technologically skilled and upskilling them than ever before. The second one is aged care and disability support sectors. So industries like aged care and disability support, healthcare, are seeing an unprecedented rise in demand, which is expected to increase the need for skilled workers by 20% by 2028. And this demand is driven by, again, an aging population. So by 2030, all baby boomers in the US will be over 65, significantly increasing the demand for healthcare and personal support services. There's also a chronic underfunding and lack of training infrastructure in aged care and disability support, which exacerbates worker shortages and affects the quality of care. Similar trends are being observed here in Australia, where I am at the moment, with workforce shortages in aged care estimated to reach 400,000 by 2050, indicating a global issue. And then there's construction and infrastructure. So, in many countries, including the US and Australia, the construction sector faces immense pressure to meet infrastructure demands. An estimated one-third of construction workers in the US are expected to retire by 2026, intensifying the skills gap in an already short-staffed industry. So, what's causing this workforce crisis apart from the pandemic 4 years ago? So there's several key factors that we can see contributing to the global workforce shortage. And one is what I've already stated, which is the aging workforce. So in many developed nations, birth rates have declined, leading to a shrinking working age population. And as older generations retire, there are not enough younger workers entering the labour market to replace them. There's also been a shift in career preference, as I said earlier. Young people are increasingly favouring college degrees and white collar professions over skilled trades and vocational jobs. This cultural shift has created a disconnect between the jobs available and the skills young workers are pursuing. And then, as we all know, there's automation and digitization. I always get pulled up on that word. While technology is creating efficiencies, it's also transforming the types of skills needed in the workforce. So workers in manufacturing, trades, and healthcare now require more advanced technical skills to keep up with automation, AI, and digital systems, but training programs have been slow to adapt. So there's an opportunity with the apprenticeship model, and to use apprenticeships globally as an opportunity and critical long-term strategy. So to combat workforce shortages effectively, promoting apprenticeships is not enough. We must also diversify them, encouraging underrepresented and marginalised groups to participate in apprenticeships, including women, individuals with disabilities, and people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, for example. This will create a more inclusive and resilient workforce. And I'll explain how. So women in trades and non-traditional roles. Historically, women have been underrepresented in skilled trades, which are what we call male-dominated fields. We can significantly expand the talent pool by diversifying and making apprenticeship pathways more inclusive to include women. For example, here in Australia, we have a Women in Trades initiative, and it has increased female participation in trade apprenticeships by 40% over the past 5 years. Similar initiatives could help the US and other nations diversify their workforces. There's also underrepresented and marginalised groups and apprenticeships. So apprenticeships provide a way to break down systemic barriers and create opportunities for those groups that are typically underrepresented and marginalised. Programs that actively recruit from underrepresented communities and provide mentorship have proven effective in increasing both participation and completion rates. And we have definitely seen that here in Australia, and I'll talk about that shortly. Disability employment gaps remain a global issue, but apprenticeships can play a key role in addressing this by offering tailored training and workplace accommodations. For instance, in the UK, disability inclusive apprenticeship programs have shown that 70% of disabled apprentices were employed after completing their programs, a figure significantly higher than traditional education pathways. Now, I've got a couple of examples of apprenticeship success here that I'll read to you, share with you. And I'll go into this a little more detailed in the next slide, but the Australian Apprenticeship Services Support Services model has successfully used apprenticeships to address workforce shortages in multiple sectors. The school-based apprenticeship program allows students to start their apprenticeship while still in secondary school, giving them a head start in critical industries like aged care and trades. National services support Australian apprenticeships, ensuring that apprentices receive mentoring, technical training, and workplace guidance. And the result is higher completion rates, around 70 to 75%, and an increased workforce pipeline in sectors facing critical shortages. The UK apprenticeship levy, which the government introduced in 2017, requires large employers to invest in apprenticeships, and this initiative helped create over 900,000 new apprenticeships by 2020, addressing skill shortages in healthcare, engineering, and digital industries. By mandating corporate investment, the UK has seen strong growth in workforce participation across sectors. And then there's women in STEM apprenticeships that we're seeing in the US at the moment. So in the US, several states have launched STEM-focused apprenticeship programs to increase female participation in tech and engineering roles. States like Oregon and Colorado have seen a 20% increase in women entering STEM apprenticeships over the past 5 years, demonstrating the power of targeted initiatives. Now, when we talk about Australia for a moment, Australia's Apprenticeship Support Services is what I can only describe as a nationally coordinated apprenticeship system. So Australia's apprenticeship and traineeship system is primarily driven by a national framework with strong government coordination and funding through the Australian Apprenticeships Initiative. Key factors of our model over here in Australia include national consistency. So apprenticeships are aligned with the Australian Qualifications Framework, or the AQF, ensuring that qualifications are standardised and recognised nationwide. The system also relies on collaboration between the federal government, industry groups, and training providers to ensure that apprenticeships align with industry needs. Australia provides financial incentives to employers like wage subsidies or equivalent who take on apprentices, supporting small and medium-sized enterprises in particular. Beyond traditional trades, Australia has expanded apprenticeships to include traineeships in IT, business, and healthcare, reflecting the changing nature of work. Australia's apprenticeship system currently supports over 280,000 active apprenticeships across multiple sectors, with a completion rate between 70 and 75% for school-based apprenticeships. The school-based apprenticeship model is dual learning. So students complete secondary education while gaining real-world trade experiences during their final 2 years of secondary school. School-based apprenticeships have improved workforce readiness by 30% and offer higher retention rates for at-risk youth. So the Australian model provides a range of services to assist apprentices, including mentoring throughout their journey, career guidance, and access to support networks. Employers receive financial incentives and access to training resources to encourage the hiring and retention of apprentices. The model allows for a mix of on-the-job and off-the-job training, enabling apprentices to earn while they learn and accommodate diverse learning styles. Dedicated apprentice mentors provide ongoing targeted support for apprentices throughout their apprenticeship term, and more intensive and tailored mentoring is provided to support the engagement and retention of underrepresented groups or apprentices with special or complex needs, helping to improve apprenticeship completion rates. So, some key insights from the OECD reports on apprenticeships. Countries with well-established apprenticeship programs experience up to a 15% quicker recovery in workforce participation after economic crisis, which highlights the resilience of apprenticeship models. Apprenticeships help bridge the skills gap by aligning training with industry needs, fostering economic growth, and reducing unemployment, especially in sectors facing skills shortages. Strong apprenticeship programs are effective in promoting inclusive employment by offering diverse pathways for underrepresented groups such as women and young people, which strengthens workforce resilience and diversity. The UK's apprenticeship system has undergone significant reforms in recent years, driven by the introduction of the apprenticeship levy in 2017. This system is highly employer-led, with a focus on creating high-quality training opportunities. The levy requires employers with a payroll of over £3 million to contribute a percentage to fund apprenticeships, incentivising larger organisations to participate in developing skilled labour. The UK places a strong emphasis on developing apprenticeship standards created by employer groups, ensuring that training is highly relevant to the needs of specific sectors. An important feature of the UK system is the introduction of degree apprenticeships, allowing individuals to earn a university degree while gaining work experience, appealing to both employers and potential apprentices. The UK also focuses on making apprenticeships more inclusive, particularly for young people and disadvantaged groups, through initiatives aimed at widening access. So, the future of apprenticeships as a global workforce solution. The global workforce shortage presents a critical challenge, but also a unique opportunity to rethink how we train and prepare workers for the future. By investing in and diversifying apprenticeships, countries like the US, Australia, and the UK can address their skilled labour gaps while creating more inclusive opportunities for underrepresented and typically marginalised groups. Apprenticeships are a proven, scalable model that equip workers with in-demand skills, and as industries evolve, apprenticeships allow workers to adapt to new technologies and demands in real time. By encouraging women, people of colour, people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, and people with disability to enter apprenticeship programs, we can create a more balanced, equitable, and resilient workforce. Apprenticeships are not just a theoretical solution to the skills gap. They're a direct and effective one. With structured, hands-on training, apprenticeships deliver a consistent pipeline of skilled workers to industries most in need, providing a tangible solution to a pressing issue. By focusing on both traditional trades and emerging sectors, and by embracing inclusive and diverse pathways, apprenticeships will continue to be a critical tool for addressing workforce shortages globally. So the big question I usually get from people is, how do we create more diverse and inclusive apprenticeship pathways? Well, I have worked in diversity, equity, inclusion, but also as a human rights consultant for many years now. And I honestly believe that the power of inclusion and fostering a culture of inclusion and psychological safety and well-being is absolutely critical to the success of apprenticeship programs. When apprentices feel valued, respected, and secure in their learning environment and their workplace, they are more likely to thrive, contribute, and develop the skills needed to excel in their roles. So I can hear some of you asking, what is psychological safety? Well, organizational behavioral scientist Amy Edmondson first introduced the construct of team psychological safety, and it can be defined as the shared belief that it's safe to take risks and be vulnerable. She also defined it as a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. Fascinatingly, it was found by research conducted by Google to be the most important of the 5 key dynamics that made successful teams, knocking structure, clarity, and meaningful work out of pole position in the process. Edmondson also pointed to psychological safety as a critical factor for high-performing teams. Teams with strong psychological safety are less afraid of the negative consequences that may result from taking smart risks, making mistakes, sharing their opinions within their team, being candid with one another. And because of this, these teams are more likely to share their opinions when they differ from one another, in turn avoiding groupthink and taking initiative when it matters most. The relationship between psychological safety and inclusion is really important for me to call out because psychological safety is key to inclusion efforts when it comes to the workplace and the learning environment. Diverse opinions, experiences, and knowledge can be better leveraged if team members feel comfortable speaking up and are accustomed to considering alternate viewpoints. Highly inclusive teams are empowered to share their unique perspectives and are better positioned to reap the benefits of having a diverse team. So, psychological safety has a direct impact on apprentice retention. Apprentices, particularly those from diverse or underrepresented backgrounds, often feel uncertain or out of place when they're entering non-traditional fields such as trades. When they feel psychologically safe, they are more likely to ask questions, seek help, and fully engage in learning. So, for example, an apprentice who feels safe to ask for clarification or share ideas in the workplace will likely gain more knowledge and confidence, increasing their commitment to the apprenticeship program. Then there's the fear of mistakes and reducing that. Apprentices are often new to the workforce, and their fear of making mistakes can be overwhelming. Psychological safety ensures that they can learn through trial and error without worrying about being reprimanded or ridiculed. This kind of learning environment encourages continuous growth and fosters a sense of belonging in the workplace. For example, if an apprentice is in a construction trade, feels safe to admit they don't understand how to use a tool properly, they can receive the guidance they need, reducing the likelihood of quitting due to frustration or feeling inadequate, but also reduces the incidence of potential injuries in the workplace. Psychological safety is particularly important for apprentices from diverse backgrounds, for example, women in trades, who may face stereotypes or implicit bias. A safe, inclusive environment can help mitigate these challenges, making them feel more welcomed and valued. So when underrepresented apprentices feel supported, they are more likely to remain in the program and succeed, helping them to bridge the skills gap. Apprentices who feel psychologically safe are also more likely to share creative ideas or offer solutions to problems without fearing negative judgment. This leads to a more dynamic and innovative workplace where apprentices feel they're contributing and leading to higher job satisfaction and apprentice retention rates. In technical or trade apprenticeships, innovation is key, as we all know. And an apprentice who feels that they can contribute new methods or ways to improve efficiency is more likely to feel valued and will stay in the program and stay in the workplace. And finally, strong apprenticeship programs also hinge on mentorship, and I'll touch on that in a little while. Psychological safety enhances the mentor-apprentice relationship by fostering open communication and trust. Apprentices who feel comfortable discussing their struggles and seeking feedback from their mentors are more likely to succeed in their roles and continue their apprenticeship. The other core piece that I see is adopting what we call a positive psychology or strengths-based approach to apprenticeships. Now, when I talk about positive psychology, it means focusing on developing individual strengths and well-being, which can effectively attract and retain diverse talent in apprenticeship programs. By emphasizing people's unique abilities and strengths and helping them thrive, organizations can create inclusive workplaces supporting underrepresented and typically marginalized groups' growth and success. So what are the 5 dimensions of this model that you can see on the screen called the PERMA model? So the 5 dimensions with an additional dimension of health has been added as a critical success factor for apprenticeship outcomes and encouraging employers and workforce development practitioners to focus on the whole person and the external contributors that may be impacting individual success, like housing insecurity, food insecurity, and domestic and family violence. The first dimension there is the P, and that stands for positive emotion. And that nurtures hope and optimism and allows people to find fulfillment in daily tasks and persevere with difficult challenges. We know that when individuals engage in an apprenticeship, they're supported by positive experiences that strengthen their self-esteem and self-efficacy, they're more likely to overcome the negative effects attributed to at-risk factors. Employers and workforce development professionals who adopt a strengths-based approach like this are also uniquely positioned to affirm strengths and talents by supporting apprentices in connecting their hobbies and interests to training, career, and vocational pathways. The second dimension that you can see there is the E for engagement, and it's about finding psychological presence or flow in a particular activity that deploys a person's skills, strengths, and attention. The third dimension you can see there, which is R for relationships, that is critical to well-being and infuses life with meaning and purpose, and everybody needs purpose in the work that they're doing. Feelings of joy, belonging, and pride are amplified through strong relationships and speak to the human need for connection. There's a sense of meaning and purpose, which is the idea of serving something bigger than one's own needs, such as those offered through family, the community, or societal causes. One way that workforce development practitioners and employers can nurture this quality is through an exploratory process that allows clients or learners to select vocational pathways and training that match their interests, passions, and strengths. And that was the M that you can see on that model there, being for meaning. The final component of the PERMA model relates to accomplishment, which is the feeling gained through meeting goals and ambitions that may be pursued for its own sake in various contexts. Through the use of appreciative advising, workforce development practitioners and employers can discover strengths using discussions about past achievements, design educational plans with young people or apprentices or future apprentices to be future focused and encourage them to raise their ambitions instead of being content with the status quo. So what is positive psychology? Well, it's a holistic approach that empowers individuals and communities by cultivating their strengths, enhancing well-being, and unlocking their potential for growth and success. So positive psychology techniques such as strengths-based assessments and coaching can create more inclusive apprenticeship environments. By highlighting the diverse strengths of apprentices, these approaches promote a culture of acceptance and belonging in the learning environment, but also in the workplace. Research shows that apprenticeship programs that prioritise positive psychology and inclusion practices can see up to a 25% increase in completion rates, particularly for those from underrepresented groups. This leads to a better talent retention and higher performing teams. And finally, strengths-based apprenticeship approaches encourage apprentices to identify and leverage their unique talents and abilities. This fosters a sense of personal agency and empowerment, leading to increased engagement, motivation, and personal growth. So diversifying the workforce. This slide here is, I found this really quite interesting, but also disappointing, because what you can see there is what we all probably know, but the distribution of female employees by race and ethnicity and career level. So when we talk about the Australian model of engaging diverse groups such as women, youth, and Indigenous or First Nations Australians in apprenticeship programs, it can be valuable. It can be a valuable blueprint for addressing workforce shortages in critical US sectors like aged care and disability services. By adopting this inclusive approach, the US can attract and retain a more diverse pool of workers to meet the projected 1.2 million job vacancies in these sectors by 2028. The Australian model actively engages underrepresented groups like women, youth, Indigenous or First Nations Australians through specialised recruitment initiatives and mentorship programs. This approach can be adapted in the US to attract diverse workers, particularly in sectors like trades and aged care. Australia's apprenticeship system involves close collaboration between employers, educational institutions, and government agencies, ensuring tailored support for diverse apprentices or apprentices from diverse backgrounds. Adopting similar partnerships in the US can create inclusive pathways and address some of these critical workforce shortages. And finally, the Australian model incorporates policies that encourage workplace inclusion, psychological safety and wellbeing, which improves retention rates and engagement of apprentices. The US can implement similar frameworks to ensure long-term engagement, retention, and success for diverse workers, especially in critical sectors. So I know firsthand the biases and challenges women face when entering the trades careers and these spaces for work. It's a very complicated puzzle to change those work environments, but we can if we commit to the time, energy, education, and awareness to it. Women bring a different perspective and solve problems differently. The industry has done everything the same for hundreds of years, and by having women in it, we can do things differently, smarter, and more innovatively. Another big problem for women entering trades is that they can't see other women in senior leadership roles, which sends the message that no career progression is available for them in those sectors or industries. We need to change the mindset of the industry to respect and value what women can bring to industries in construction and trades. We need to let women become foremen, line managers, and factory managers so that other women and young women can see that there is career progression for them. Like the old saying that I repeat daily, you can't be what you can't see. Well, I believe that you can be, but it's just more difficult without a role model to empower and inspire you on your journey. Women currently make up 3% of the trade workforce in Australia and hold only 1 in every 100 trade apprenticeships. Before I moved to the US last year, I designed and delivered a program called Connecting Women to Trades, which my team delivered across Sydney. The outcomes were absolutely phenomenal. Over 200 women were supported through the program and gained the confidence to pursue a trade career, many of them securing employment or apprenticeships in their desired trade area. Many tradeswomen tell me that they wish they had more courage or confidence to enter trade careers. So let's teach them. In the construction industry, women often face significant barriers to entering and advancing in traditionally male-dominated roles. Societal expectations and a lack of visible female role models in leadership positions can discourage women from pursuing careers in construction. This underrepresentation of women in the industry perpetuates the misconception that construction work is not suitable for female workers. So when we think about increasing female participation in things like male-dominated trades, we actually had a initiative here in Australia called Women in Trade Careers, and it's still going. And the initiative focuses on breaking gender stereotypes by providing women with pathways into trades like construction, plumbing, and electrical work, addressing the lack of female representation in these fields. By encouraging women to enter these high-demand industries, the initiative helps alleviate critical labour shortages in key sectors, like construction, where skilled workers are urgently needed. The program provides pre-apprenticeship training, connects women with mentors, and works with employers to create supportive and inclusive and psychologically safe work environments, ensuring long-term retention and success. The initiative offers valuable insights for the US, where similar programs could be implemented to address its own skilled labour shortages, improve gender diversity, and create more inclusive pathways for women in trades. And like I said, since the launch of the Women in Trade Careers Initiative, The completion rate of female apprenticeships in traditionally male-dominated trade fields such as construction has increased significantly by 40%. So some of the barriers that women face when entering into trade careers include cultural resistance. So deeply rooted societal norms and biases that view certain trades as men's work have created an unwelcoming environment for women. There's also been a real lack of mentorship and role models, as I said earlier. Insufficient access to experienced professionals who can provide guidance, support, and career advice for women entering these fields has been a key problem. And then there's the obvious one, which is workplace inclusion issues, but also a real lack of psychological safety and well-being for women in these sectors. Lack of policies, programs, and support systems to ensure women feel valued, respected, and able to thrive in their roles has been a key issue in attracting, recruiting, and retaining women in trade careers. So some key takeaways for the US could include structured pathways for women. So by offering pre-apprenticeship programs, flexible learning opportunities, and apprenticeships with mentorship, US trade industries could better engage and retain women in non-traditional trades and non-traditional roles. Creating psychologically safe and inclusive workplaces, as I said, is vital to retaining women in these industries. Diversity training, psychological safety and wellbeing training, and the implementation of gender equity policies in US companies would foster a more supportive environment for women in trades. Raising awareness is also key. So raising awareness about the benefits of trade careers for women is a key component. Public awareness campaigns similar to those in Australia would help dismantle stereotypes and encourage women to pursue apprenticeships in fields like construction, electrical, and plumbing. Now, mentorship. It's an absolutely critical component of a successful apprenticeship program. It's also key to retaining apprentices. So a mentor provides apprentices with support and guidance as they navigate their apprenticeship and develop their careers. They can help apprentices to identify and overcome challenges, set goals, keep them motivated, and also develop skills and knowledge. Mentoring programs offer newcomers to an industry the support of an experienced professional who can offer a sounding board, show them the ropes, and act as a conduit between them and their employer. Typically, the concept has been associated with startups and tech firms, but started to gain momentum in the apprenticeship world. We need to encourage this more. As many industries face skills and workforce shortages globally and apprentice numbers decline, programs that provide additional support and tailored support and encourage apprentices to stay can only be good. Many employers who take on apprentices are small businesses, small to medium businesses, that don't have the back office or HR staff to help them engage their employees. Think about the self-employed builder, for instance. The business might just be them and a couple of apprentices. So if an issue or challenge for the apprentice arises, they may not have the resources or the time to dedicate to working through the problem. In situations like this, a mentoring program really comes into its own, and it can be the difference between the apprentice quitting or remaining on to become a qualified tradesperson, for instance. When you add this to the fact that apprentices are often young people making the significant transition from a school environment to the workforce, providing advice and support at this critical time, really makes sense. This support can play a vital role throughout the apprenticeship. We know that there are various stages throughout an apprenticeship where the risk of dropping out is at its greatest, usually at the very beginning and usually midway through as well. The first of these is at the very beginning, where a negative experience, or maybe it could be a poor onboarding experience, can cause the apprentice to reconsider their decision. Mentoring during this time is not just helpful, it's crucial in helping them to integrate into the workforce. Many apprentices are minors when they commence their apprenticeship. So another high risk period can occur when they turn 18, or in the States when they turn 21. This is a key milestone and a time when peers can have significant influence on their lives. So a mentor can really help to keep them on track. And this slide is just to show or to demonstrate the really improved or much higher completion rates of apprenticeships and apprentices with mentors compared to those that don't have mentors. So best practices for mentorship. We have to establish mentorship partnerships by matching apprentices with experienced mentors who can provide guidance, coaching, and support throughout the program. We need the mentorship programs and the relationship between the mentor and the apprentice to foster psychological safety. So that involves creating an environment where apprentices feel comfortable sharing their challenges, asking questions, and taking risks without fear of judgment or criticism. Ongoing support is critical. So scheduling regular check-ins, feedback sessions, and progress reviews ensures that apprentices receive the support they need to succeed. And then there's the encouragement of peer-to-peer learning. So facilitating peer mentoring opportunities where more experienced apprentices can share their knowledge and and insights with newer apprentices provides that role modeling as well as having the mentor. And then finally, we need to measure and evaluate the mentorship impact. So we can do that by tracking apprentices' retention, satisfaction, engagement, and program completion rates to assess the effectiveness of the mentorship program. So how I'm trying to demonstrate through this next slide, the correlation between mentorship and inclusion. So mentorship supports that mentor-mentee matching. It also includes that peer-to-peer support group that I just mentioned. It's also going to be critical to creating or fostering an inclusive workplace culture. And mentorship program completion rates are impacted by both of these components. So if you have a mentorship program as part of your apprenticeship program, but you're hearing from your apprentices that they don't feel included, they don't feel psychologically safe, and they may not use those words. But if there's some at-risk factors in the workplace, that's going to impact your mentorship program completion rate, the engagement of apprentices, but it's also going to have that bigger impact and really impact the retention rates of apprentices. So that is my presentation for you today on diversifying apprenticeship pathways. As we've explored, apprenticeships hold immense potential to address critical workforce shortages and create inclusive pathways for underrepresented groups. By focusing on diversity, inclusion, and psychological safety and well-being in the learning environment and also in the workforce, we can build a resilient workforce that meets industry demands and employer demands and provides equitable opportunities for all individuals. It's time for action. So here's how you can contribute. Engage with apprenticeships. Whether you're an employer, educator, or policymaker, invest in creating and supporting apprenticeship programs that attract diverse talent. Champion diversity. Advocate for inclusive and supportive environments, both workplaces and learning environments that foster psychological safety and well-being and allow all apprentices to thrive. Partner for success. So collaborate with stakeholders, including organisations like ours, to drive sustainable change in workforce development. Together, we can empower minds, unlock potential, and transform lives, building a workforce for the future that is diverse, skilled, and ready for the challenges ahead. Thank you so much for your time. My name's Kylie Van Leeuwen, again from Elevated Coaching and Consulting. I appreciate your attendance. Please reach out if you'd like to connect. Thank you.